There's a moment in every connection where words stop being enough and behavior starts telling the truth. You don't always notice it at first. In fact, it usually starts very quietly. A man who once felt like just another person in your life slowly begins to feel different. Not because he says something dramatic, but because the way he shows up starts changing. The way he looks at you, the way he listens, the way he stays just a little longer than he needs to. And the strange part is, he may not even realize he's doing it, because when a man starts wanting real intimacy with a woman, not just casual attention or surface level attraction, something shifts in him that words can't fully control. His energy starts leaning toward her. His focus becomes sharper when she speaks. His curiosity about her life becomes deeper than simple interest. And suddenly, small things begin to feel meaningful. A pause in conversation, a soft smile, a message that comes at the right time. You might think he's just being friendly or polite or normal, but emotional intention is rarely that simple. There are patterns behind it, subtle ones, honest ones. And once you learn how to see them, you stop guessing and start understanding. Because when a man truly wants closeness with you, he doesn't always say it directly, but he almost always shows it in ways he cannot fully hide. When a man is truly drawn toward intimacy with you, the first and most noticeable shift is in his attention. Not the kind of attention that comes and goes casually, but the kind that feels steady, intentional, and hard to miss once you recognize it. In a world where everyone is distracted, phones, work, thoughts, noise, attention has become one of the rarest forms of care. And that's exactly why it speaks so loudly when it's real. A man who is emotionally and physically leaning toward deeper connection with you doesn't just look at you. He notices you. There's a difference between seeing someone and actually observing them. He remembers small things you said without you repeating them. He catches details others overlook, like the way your mood changes slightly when something is off, or how your tone shifts when you're excited about something you love. It's not that he's trying hard, it's that his mind naturally starts prioritizing you without him even realizing it. You will also notice it in the way he behaves when you speak. He doesn't interrupt or drift away mentally. His focus stays on you, like your words matter more than whatever else is happening around him. Even in group settings, his attention finds its way back to you. It's subtle but consistent, and consistency is where truth hides. He leans in slightly when you talk, not in an exaggerated way, but in a natural pull that shows curiosity. His eyes stay engaged, not wandering around the room, because in that moment, you are the most interesting thing in his environment. Another quiet sign is how he responds to your silence. If you pause, he doesn't rush to fill the space with random talk. Instead, he waits, listens, and lets the moment breathe, as if he values your presence even when nothing is being said. That level of patience is not accidental. It reflects emotional investment. A man who is only casually interested will often show impatience or distraction, but a man moving toward intimacy becomes more grounded around you. And perhaps the most powerful part is this: he starts remembering you without effort, not because he is trying to impress you, but because you occupy mental space in his day. Something you said might come up in his thoughts later. A moment you shared might replay in his mind when you're not even around. That's what deep attention does. It lingers. So when a man gives you this kind of attention, it's more than politeness. It's not just interest. It's the beginning of emotional presence. And emotional presence is often the first doorway to real intimacy. When a man starts moving toward real intimacy with you, one of the most interesting things to notice is not just what he says, but how he changes when he is around you. It's subtle at first. You may not even catch it in the beginning, but over time it becomes clearer. His voice, his energy, even his overall presence begins to shift in a way that feels different from how he is with others. It's not something he can fully control because it comes from emotion, not effort. You might notice that his tone becomes softer when he speaks to you, not weak or uncertain, but calmer, more grounded, more personal. It's as if he naturally lowers the volume of his personality just enough to meet you where you are. He doesn't feel the need to impress loudly or dominate the space. Instead, there's a kind of ease in the way he talks, like he's more relaxed, more open, more willing to simply be himself around you. That shift matters because people don't usually soften their energy unless they feel some level of emotional comfort or connection. At the same time, his voice often carries more attention when he is speaking with you. He may slow down slightly, choosing his words with a bit more care. It's not overthinking, it's awareness. He is more present in the conversation, more tuned in to how you are responding. You can sometimes hear small changes in his tone when he is interested in what you are saying, like a natural lift in curiosity or warmth. It creates a sense that the conversation with you is not just passing time, but something he values. His body language also starts matching this shift in energy. He faces you more directly. He leans in a little when you speak. His posture becomes more open, not closed off or distracted. Even in silence, there is a kind of comfort in the space between you. He doesn't rush to fill every gap with unnecessary words because he is not uncomfortable with the moment. Instead, he seems to enjoy simply being there with you. Another powerful part of this shift is how his energy reacts to your presence emotionally. When you are happy, he feels lighter. When you are quiet, he becomes more attentive. When you are expressive, he becomes more engaged. It's as if his emotional rhythm starts syncing, even slightly, with yours. This doesn't mean he loses himself, but rather that your presence begins to influence his emotional state in a natural way. And perhaps the most telling sign is consistency. This change in voice and energy is not random. It shows up again and again when he is with you, even on ordinary days. He doesn't need a special reason to switch into this softer, more attentive version of himself. It happens simply because you are there. That is what makes it meaningful. Because when someone's energy begins to shift around you without effort, it often means you are no longer just another person in their life. You are someone their presence is quietly responding to. When a man starts wanting real intimacy with you, one of the most important signs shows up in the depth of his conversations. It stops being about surface level charm or casual back and forth flirting and slowly turns into something more meaningful, more personal, and more emotionally open. This shift is not always loud or obvious, but it is powerful once you recognize it. Because a man who is only interested in passing attraction will usually keep things light, funny, and temporary. But a man who is leaning toward real closeness starts to go deeper without even realizing it. You may notice he begins asking you questions that feel different from ordinary conversation. Instead of just, "How was your day?" he becomes curious about what actually made your day good or difficult. He wants to understand your thoughts, not just your updates. He listens when you talk about your past, your experiences, your opinions, and even the small details of your personality. And the key difference is this: he doesn't ask just to respond, he asks to understand. There is patience in the way he listens, as if your words are not something to rush through, but something to take in fully. Another important shift is how he starts sharing more of himself. At first, men often hold back, keeping things light or controlled, but when emotional closeness starts forming, he begins opening small windows into his own life. He may talk about things he doesn't usually share with others, his challenges, his fears, his goals, or even moments where he didn't feel strong. This is not done for attention. It is done because emotional connection naturally creates trust, and trust invites honesty. When a man feels safe with you emotionally, he starts letting you see parts of him that others don't easily see. You may also notice that conversations with him last longer and feel more meaningful over time. Even simple topics can turn into deeper discussions. A small comment can lead to a long exchange of thoughts, ideas, or feelings. There is a sense that neither of you wants to quickly end the conversation because the connection feels engaging on a level that goes beyond entertainment. What makes this even more important is the emotional tone behind it. He doesn't just talk, he connects. There is a difference between someone who fills silence and someone who builds understanding. A man moving toward intimacy will often try to create a sense of emotional closeness through conversation, even in small ways. He remembers your reactions. He pays attention to what matters to you. He tries to respond in ways that make you feel heard, not just replied to. And perhaps the strongest sign of all is consistency and depth. It's not a one-time deep conversation, it becomes a pattern. Over time, you realize that with him, things rarely stay shallow for long. There is always a pull towards something more meaningful, more real, more emotionally connected. That is what separates casual interest from genuine emotional intimacy. One stays on the surface, the other keeps finding its way deeper, quietly building a bridge between two people without ever needing to announce it. When a man starts developing real emotional and physical attraction that leans toward intimacy, one of the most underrated but powerful signs is how he begins to treat your peace like something valuable. It's not about control or possession, it's about care. There's a noticeable difference between someone who is simply interested in you and someone who becomes emotionally aware of your comfort, your mood, and your inner balance. A man moving toward deeper connection doesn't want to be the source of confusion or emotional stress in your life. Instead, he starts paying attention to how you feel around him. You may notice that he becomes more thoughtful in his actions. He doesn't disappear randomly or leave things unclear in a way that keeps you overthinking. He starts communicating in a more steady way, not because he is trying to impress you, but because he doesn't want unnecessary emotional distance between you. When a woman's peace matters to a man, his behavior naturally becomes more considerate. He thinks twice before saying things that could create misunderstanding. He becomes more aware of timing, tone, and emotional impact. Another layer of this is how he reacts when he senses that something is off with you. Even without you saying much, he may pick up on subtle changes in your energy. Maybe you are quieter than usual, or your replies feel different, or your mood seems slightly distant. A man who is emotionally invested doesn't ignore that shift. He notices it, and instead of avoiding it, he gently tries to understand it, not in an overwhelming way, but in a calm and grounded manner. He may ask simple questions or check in with you just to make sure you are okay. What's important here is that his intention is not to control your emotions, but to protect the space between you from unnecessary tension. He doesn't want misunderstandings to grow. He doesn't want silence to turn into confusion. So he becomes more careful with how he handles emotional moments. That care often shows through consistency, showing up when he says he will, responding in a way that feels stable, and not creating emotional unpredictability. You might also notice that he becomes more supportive of your well-being in general. He encourages your calm, respects your boundaries, and pays attention to what makes you feel comfortable or uncomfortable. He doesn't push you into emotional pressure. Instead, he tries to create a sense of ease when he is around you. That ease becomes part of his presence. And one of the strongest signs is that he starts valuing harmony with you more than winning arguments or proving a point. Even in disagreements, there is a shift. He may still express himself, but he does it in a way that protects the connection rather than damaging it. That is emotional maturity mixed with genuine interest. In the end, when a man becomes protective of your peace, it reflects something deeper than attraction. It reflects emotional investment. Because people don't naturally care about preserving someone's inner calm unless that person has started to matter to them in a meaningful way. When a man is truly moving toward deeper intimacy with you, one of the clearest and most revealing signs shows up in how he starts thinking about the future and where you naturally appear in it. This is not something loud or dramatic. It's usually subtle, woven into everyday conversations, small suggestions, or casual ideas he shares without even realizing the weight behind them. But if you pay attention, you'll notice a shift. He stops treating you like someone who is only part of the present moment and starts including you in what comes next. At first, it may sound simple. He might mention plans for next week and casually include you in them. Or he could talk about a place he wants to visit and naturally say something like, "We should go there," instead of keeping it general. These small words matter more than they seem because they reflect how his mind is organizing your presence in his life. When a man is not emotionally invested, his language stays individual. I, me, maybe someday. But when emotional closeness starts building, that language slowly shifts into shared experiences. Another important sign is how he begins to imagine experiences with you in a very natural way. It doesn't feel forced or overly planned. It comes out in simple moments of conversation. He might talk about food you should try together, a movie you should watch, or even a random idea like going somewhere just to spend time. These are not grand declarations of love. They are quiet signs of mental inclusion. You are no longer just someone he is talking to. You are becoming part of how he pictures enjoyment, comfort, and connection. You may also notice that his long term curiosity about you increases. He starts asking questions that go beyond the present moment. He wants to know what you want in life, where you see yourself in the future, what kind of environment makes you happy, and what kind of experiences you value. This is because he is not just learning about you for today, he is trying to understand how your life could align with his over time. Even if he doesn't openly say it, his curiosity begins to stretch forward. What makes this sign even stronger is consistency. It's not just one or two random comments, it becomes a pattern in how he communicates. Over time, you notice that he naturally includes you when thinking ahead, even in small or ordinary ways. There is no pressure behind it, no big promises, just a quiet assumption that your presence matters beyond the current moment. And perhaps the most meaningful part is the emotional shift behind it. A man doesn't start placing someone in his future thinking unless that person has already started to take up emotional space in his present. It's not about planning everything perfectly. It's about the direction of his thoughts. When a man begins to see you in his tomorrow, even in small and unspoken ways, it usually means something real is forming, because people don't casually include others in their future imagination unless somewhere inside they already feel a sense of connection that is growing stronger than just temporary interest. And here's the real truth that most people only understand after experience teaches them the hard way. Love and intimacy are rarely announced, they are revealed. A man doesn't always come forward with clear statements about what he feels, but he consistently shows it through patterns, energy, and behavior that become harder to ignore over time. When you start paying attention to those subtle signs, the way he listens, the way his presence shifts around you, the depth of his conversations, the care he shows for your peace, and how naturally you begin to appear in his future thoughts, you stop guessing and start understanding what is actually happening beneath the surface. But the most important part is not just recognizing these signs in someone else, it's also understanding what you want in return. Because awareness without self worth leads nowhere. The goal is not to chase attention or decode every small action, but to see clearly when someone is genuinely showing up with intention and when they are not. Real connection feels consistent, calm, and emotionally safe. It doesn't leave you confused every day. It doesn't make you question your value. It doesn't keep you waiting for clarity that never comes. So take this understanding with you, not as a way to overthink every interaction, but as a way to become more grounded in what real emotional presence looks like. If you notice yourself relating to any of these signs, reflect on what that connection is really giving you in return. And if this message gave you clarity, don't just scroll past it. Share your thoughts in the comments, because sometimes the most powerful realizations come not from watching, but from discussing, reflecting, and seeing how others experience the same patterns.